In this short video, we introduce the idea of what we are calling large N trials. Whether this is a distinctly new approach is debatable, but it is a research tool that meets some common challenges in research for development in smallholder agriculture. A second video looks at some of the details of how such studies could be implemented. For 150 years, field experiments have been a core method for agricultural research. Typical experiments looked like the one in this aerial photograph, with small, well-managed plots replicated on one site, used to give precise comparisons of treatments. 90 years ago, Fisher set out the principles for designing valid and efficient experiments, which are shown in summary along the side here. Small, well-designed and managed experiments such as these are still an essential method for many research programs, and the principles set out by Fisher are still fundamental to the design of good trials. But things have changed, and we need to add new approaches to the toolbox. Breeders and other scientists noticed that results of an experiment may depend on the environment in which it is done. Treatment by environment interactions are possible. To detect and understand those interactions, they started doing their trials in several environments. The classical multi-environment trial repeats the same design in each of a number of different locations or environments, as in this example of a crop variety trial from Ethiopia. 8 environments were used, selected to represent the range of rainfall regimes within the crop zone. The trial can show you how relative performance of varieties changes with rainfall, or with anything that varies with rainfall. Such trials also have an important place in many programs. About 30 years ago, the practice of including farmers directly in research became more usual, and for good reasons, and this resulted in new trial layouts. There are many variations possible, but the style summarized in this example is common. A few tens of farmers involved, often with one plot each of each treatment. Some factors describing the farm, such as soil type, are measured, and such trials are very common now. These trials have the benefit that they are done under farmers and farm conditions. They allow testing and comparison of options in real farmer conditions, including the same type of soils, with the same pest problems and resource limitations that farmers deal with in real life. They also allow farmers to evaluate and assess the options themselves, potentially granting the research new perspectives, unexpected insights, and possibly innovations that researchers alone would not have thought of. And they also build on the widely held participation value that research for farmers should be done with farmers. They have a right to be involved in research that is supposed to help them. But there are also some limitations of these trials. Many researchers will tell you that the results are often very variable across farms. If there are 35 farms, then that can appear like 35 different environments, with a different result in each one. It can be very hard to understand what are repeatable, consistent effects, or what the source of the variation is. These trials can also be expensive and logistically difficult. For example, if 35 farmers are involved, then the technician installing the trial has to get to each one at planting time, and again at harvest time. Farmers commonly complain that researchers are late, while researchers commonly complain that the farmers mess things up by harvesting before they could measure it. So the evolution in experimental ideas that we are proposing here is to greatly increase the number of farms involved. We will look at how that might be achieved in the next video, but it involves simplifying the designs and giving farmers a greater role in the trial. Some projects are successfully using this approach, so we know it can be viable. It builds on some trends in research approaches emerging in other areas. You might see similarities to citizen science, in which large numbers of volunteers contribute to a collective effort, and some of the methods of analyzing the resulting data might use big data approaches of pattern discovery, and not just standard analysis of variance. Interestingly, the approach is also being used in agricultural science for large-scale farming. Seed companies in some parts of the world now do trials with very large numbers of plots, spread over many farms, to develop varieties adapted to local conditions. A large N trial that is well planned and carried out can bring two main benefits over more conventional approaches. First, there is a real possibility of sampling much of the variation in the context, both biophysical and social, that contributes to the variation across farms. With larger sample sizes, we can get real insights into the complexity of the options by context interactions and start to explain the variation we see. That means research can generate nuanced, context-specific recommendations that are both realistic and low risk for farmers. The second advantage is that larger numbers of farmers get involved from early on. Some of the problems involved with scaling up an approach or intervention can be avoided, as you are already working at a large scale. In the next video, we will look at some of what it takes to design and run a good large N trial.